Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Elder Kevin Harris, Take the Journey Enterprises, and one of the guest panelists on No Marriage Left Behind, which is coming up soon, guys. We're coming up on, well, we still got a little ways to go. It's next month, but I want you to get, don't let's not wait to the last minute. We ask that you go ahead and register. I'm going to put the registration form out today, and we're going to make sure we get on it. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of meat on that bone. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna, we cutting the fat out. It's going to be nutritious. It's going to have all the ingredients. We're going to give you we're going to set the table, where the table is spread and the feast of the Lord is going on. So we're going to make sure that you understand that you're going to get your vegetables, you're going to get your meat, you're going to get a little bit of fruit, you're going to get you a little dessert. You understand what I'm saying? And so we're going to just lay it out and give you the ebbs and flows, the peaks and valleys. We talk about what we did right. We talk about what we did wrong. You know what I'm saying? So on today, speaking of what we did wrong, I'm going to talk about for those of you that have children and are married, this is to you, okay? This is to you. Now, if it doesn't apply to you, it's not for everybody, but it applies to who it applies to. I was sitting back thinking about yesterday how my parenting was, my kids are all in their 20s. And I was thinking about my parenting. I was like, you know what? I could have did some things better. And the areas I should have did better was the area of apology. You see what I'm saying? I've apologized to my kids about some things because when me and my wife our intentions was not to be to have heated fellowship or disagreements, but unfortunately throughout our years we had some disagreements. We had some arguments that the kids saw. Some we tried not to see, and some they saw and heard, and some they didn't. And I started thinking about how those disagreements shaped our kids, and how maybe it made them feel uncomfortable or awkward, or it made them feel uneasy, and again, it's nobody's intention to be disagreeable. But when two people come together that have different viewpoints, sometimes you disagree, but it's a way you disagree. I learned that through time and over time to learn how to disagree. But early on I wasn't that great at it. So I'm exposing myself to let you know that if you were that way and had some heated moments, then I admonish you, don't let it, even if they're grown, go back and talk to them and see how they're doing. Man, my wife and I, we've done this before. We asked them, look, there's some things we know we weren't great at. If there's some issues y'all need to discuss, or you felt like we failed you in some areas, give me an opportunity to explain myself and let the healing begin. Because we came up in a time in the 70s and 80s, for me, you to be seen and not heard. You didn't have a voice. You didn't have an opinion. You get knocked upside the head or slap the words that old people used to say. I'm going to slap those words back into your mouth. You see what I'm saying? So, but now this generation feels like, or they feel like they have more of a voice and a say. So you have to adjust to the time. It's hard for me, and me and my wife had to figure this out, that we couldn't teach a 90s 2000 child based off a 70s experience. Now that's difficult, and my parents had to go through it too. My parents was born in the 50s, and so they was trying to raise me based on the 50s and the 70s and 80s. And the 70s and 80s is way different than the 50s and 60s. You see what I'm saying? But they still did the best they could. The same for us. So then we brought some of those 70s and 80s into our teaching, and some of it work and some of it don't. Core principles are my goal was set to be, I want you to be a positive human being. I want you to put something positive into the world. That doesn't change no matter what generation it is. But other areas I had to learn to adjust to and adapt to, and one of which is to say I was not the best parent that I could have been. One of the ways I had to say, you know what, I could have done this a little differently. And so parents, I admonish you that, again, if this doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't. But if you feel like that your child was exposed to something that may have altered or adjusted who they are, and it doesn't hurt to say, you know what, we did the best we could, but it may not have been the best. We did the best we could. You see what I'm saying? But it may still fall short of what you needed to develop and to be who God wanted you to be. You see what I'm saying? Those things can happen because, again, we was basing it off of a learned behavior. You see what I'm saying? So today I just wanted to like I say, when God gives me something, I'm going to give it because there's nothing to be ashamed of failing at something. That doesn't mean you're a failure. That just means you may have failed in that particular area. To the parents that are remarried, did you get a chance to talk to your child about the transition, or did you just whisk them away and said, I'm no longer with your daddy. I'm no longer with your mom. Now, statistics show, and this is what I found out too, that is traumatic. And back in the day, again, parents did not stop to explain why they did what they did. Parents, not saying they're selfish at the time, but they just want out of the situation. They're not thinking about the child and how the child is devastated that you just ripped them from their other parent. You literally ripped them apart and with no explanation, and they can't even ask what's going on or even ask the why question. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, that's now they're dealing with the new situation, the trauma of the past situation, and how this is affecting them as they go forward. So again, you need to talk. I don't care if they're still alive. If they are still alive, you owe them an explanation. You owe them an apology. Now, did it save your life? I don't know your situation why you left, but it still is owed to the child because you want them to be healthy in their future marriage if they choose to, because those traumatic situations of divorce, arguments, misunderstandings could be the block, the centerpiece, the center block. We call a center block, a big block for the house, could be the center block is why they're not married, why they don't have kids, why they don't do this, because we have not helped them heal. I am here to say, again, me and my wife did it. We talked to them. We constantly say, look, if we done something, we apologize. But if you feel you need to share that you think, that you need to, I don't want me to be a hindrance to you. You get what I'm saying? I'm not going to allow that. Now, I've given you the space to say something, and I'm not going to be trying to defend it. I'm not going to be trying to get defensive or hurt my feelings. If I did something, you said, look, Dad, this is what happened. I heard this. I experienced this. I felt some kind of way. You know what? I apologize. You see what I'm saying? I apologize. This wasn't my intention to make your life harder than it should have been. You see what I'm saying? It is our responsibility. Pastor Ben, the late Pastor Ben said, they are tender plants and jewels. It is our responsibility that God gave us these jewels to make sure that they are growing and developing into productive citizens. If they are not, we need to sit back and say, was it something I did or said that did not produce the fruit that God said. Now I'm going to close with this. Ephesians 6:4 said, do not cause wrath in your children. We have to ask ourselves, did we cause our children to wrath? Did we cause our children to be uncomfortable? Did we cause our children to feel like that marriage is not for us? Marriage is not the way. Having kids is not the way. And I mean, and kids ain't for everybody, but I'm focused more on the marriage. Okay. So I want us to take responsibility for our portion that we played in the development of our jewels. Okay. I'm not saying our kids was perfect, but let's take responsibility for the portion, the part we played, not explaining to them why we're doing what we're doing. Okay. I know I did not explain well enough why we do what we did. All right. Till next time, y'all be blessed. Have a tenacious Thursday. See you on tomorrow. Peace.